It usually starts with a minor request or a subtle suggestion. You nod, you smile, and you walk away, only to realize a few minutes later that you just agreed to something that serves their interests while complicating yours. This happens because social interactions often contain hidden hooks. By framing a request in a way that targets your desire to be helpful or your fear of appearing rude, someone can create a sense of obligation that overrides your own logic. They aren't just talking to you, they are searching for an emotional handle they can use to move you. This diagram outlines a four-part process designed to neutralize that pressure. We call it strategic indifference, a method for staying grounded when someone is actively trying to pull you off balance. Think of a specific person in your life who consistently pushes your boundaries, the one who makes you feel like you have to defend your choices. Use them as the test subject for these next four movements. When you apply these shifts in behavior, the dynamic of the room changes. You move from being a predictable person who reacts to social cues to someone who is governed entirely from within. In a high-pressure conversation, your instinct is to focus on the literal words the other person is saying. To regain control, you have to ignore the surface level and instead diagnose the specific pressure they are applying. The first priority is to identify exactly which emotional trigger they are attempting to engage. This grid maps four primary areas where people look for leverage: guilt, praise, fear, or outrage. Look at the praise quadrant. Sudden flattery tests if your need for validation makes you overlook a request you should refuse. Once you see the hook, the next movement is to detach your interest from the outcome. Influence only works if you need something from the other person, whether that is their approval or simply the avoidance of a conflict. In that exact moment, you must make a silent internal choice. You explicitly decide that you do not require their good opinion or their validation. You are essentially refusing to participate in the exchange they have initiated. This isn't about being hostile or performing a version of coldness to get a reaction. In fact, if you act out of bitterness, you are still reacting to them, which means they still have power over your mood. True indifference is the quiet removal of the connection. When you no longer prioritize their reaction, they have nothing left to grip. Their attempt to move you simply fails to land because the handle they were reaching for is no longer there. Once you have severed that internal need for approval, you have to manage how you appear on the outside. This is where the internal shift becomes an external reality. The third movement involves governing your physical and verbal responses to remain unreadable. This image highlights the difference between reaction and response. On the left is the chaotic instinct to defend yourself or over-explain your position. On the right is the still, steady presence of someone comfortable with silence, who doesn't feel the need to fill the air with justifications. The rule here is simple: never explain yourself. Explaining is an admission that the other person has the right to judge your choices. By staying silent or giving a brief, neutral response, you keep the power of the interaction centered on yourself. While your silence is neutralizing their momentum, you begin the final movement, an internal diagnostic. This is a perspective modeled on the analytical approach of Niccolo Machiavelli. He didn't view human behavior through the lens of emotion. He viewed it as a general studies a map. You are no longer part of the conversation. You are an observer of it. You ask yourself one quiet internal question: what does this person stand to gain from my reaction? When you identify their motive, whether they want your time or your resources or just a sense of superiority, their words lose their weight. You are now working with data, not feelings. This information allows you to exit the conversation or redirect it on your own terms. Shifting from an emotional response to a strategic analysis changes the dynamic of any room. You stop being a person who can be baited, and you start being the one who dictates the pace of the interaction. When you apply these four movements in real time, you are no longer operating within the social script that others have written for you. You are acting according to your own standards. The shift is visible to everyone. When you are indifferent to social pressure, people who rely on those levers find their tactics simply fail. They begin to respect your boundaries not because you ask them to, but because they realize they have no way to cross them. To commit to this standard of internal governance, I want you to leave a comment with this oath: I am the storm they never saw coming. It serves as a reminder that the most powerful thing you can be is unpredictable and self-governed. Like this video if you value this strategic approach, and subscribe to continue building this mindset. By refusing to react to the hooks and levers of others, you have achieved the ultimate goal. You have stepped out of the game, and in doing so, you have become truly unshakable.